Remember during the COVID-19 pandemic, we heard it all the time, right? We're at war with an invisible enemy. We were all on the front lines, fighting a battle. But here's the thing, using the language of war to talk about health, it's not new at all. In fact, it's an idea with a really long and pretty complicated history. So let's get into it. Now get this quote is from 1948. 1948. It's from the actual founding constitution of the World Health Organization. So yeah, this link between health and security, it's been kicking around from the very beginning. But it's only in the last couple of decades that it's gone from this kind of philosophical idea to being a core part of how countries deal with each other. And you know, this raises a huge question, one that has totally shaped our modern world, from the way we travel to how our governments spend literally billions of dollars. So, what was the switch? When did we stop looking at a virus as just a public health problem and start seeing it as a direct threat to the stability of entire nations? Well, that's exactly what we're going to unpack. The answer, it turns out, lies in this series of crises that all happened right at the dawn of the 21st century, and they completely changed how the world's most powerful nations looked at infectious diseases. It really was this perfect storm, just one thing right after another. First, in 2000, the HIV/AIDS crisis was seen as so devastating, especially in Africa, that it was actually framed as a threat to militaries and regional stability. Then, just a week after 9/11, the anthrax attacks happened in the US, making the terrifying idea of bioterrorism suddenly feel very, very real. And right on the heels of that, SARS showed the whole world just how fast a new virus could shut down global travel and send economies into a tailspin. And that UN resolution, that was a huge deal. This was the first time in history that the Security Council, the group that's supposed to deal with wars and keep the peace, officially took on a health issue. In one move, HIV/AIDS went from being a health crisis to a global security crisis, and that set a powerful precedent for everything that came after. And the effect was almost immediate. Suddenly, in places like the US, the UK, Canada, Australia, their foreign policies started to include public health as a key piece of national security. All of a sudden, hospitals, labs, and disease surveillance, they weren't just for treating sick people anymore. No, they were now seen as a nation's first line of defense. But, and this is a big but, treating health like a security threat is a really powerful move, and it comes with some serious debate. Is this actually the best way to handle global health? And this is the central dilemma right here. It's a classic double-edged sword. On the one hand, you label something a security threat, and boom, it gets immediate attention, the money starts flowing, governments are forced to act fast. But the critics have a pretty strong point. They argue this whole approach mainly serves the interests of wealthy nations trying to protect their own borders. It can totally ignore the root causes of disease, like poverty, and it can whip up fear that leads to stigma and social exclusion. This leads to what a lot of people call the containment problem. When your main goal is just to stop a disease from crossing your border, your solutions are all going to be about surveillance and emergency response, detecting it and stopping it. Critics say this is all designed to benefit Western interests, and it crowds out other, maybe better strategies like, investing in health systems in the global south to stop these outbreaks from ever happening in the first place. Okay, but the story gets even more complex. It's not just that our idea of health is becoming more like security. The really wild part is that the very idea of security itself is starting to look a lot more like medicine. There's this great term for it from a political scientist named Stefan Elbay, the medicalization of security. And what it means is basically we're starting to use the tools, the language, and the logic of medicine to try and solve security problems. Think about it for a second. For decades, security was about military power, about what other countries were planning. Now, we're also seeing insecurity as something that comes from the health of a population. So the goal of security is shifting from just defending territory to managing and protecting life itself. And this is what that actually looks like. This isn't science fiction. This is happening right now. We have systems that use big data. They're monitoring everything from pharmacy sales to calls to health hotlines, even what you're searching for online. And they're feeding it all into these complex algorithms. And what's the goal? To predict the next outbreak before it even begins. Security is acting like a doctor, trying to diagnose a disease in the entire global population before we even know we're sick. The ultimate implication of all of this is, well, it's profound. With this intense focus on surveillance, on screening, and on prediction, the individual human body, your body, my body, It becomes the main arena for international security. The body becomes the battlefield.
So, after all that, after going from a WHO constitution in 1948 all the way to today's surveillance algorithms, what does this all mean for the future?
It's really clear that this isn't a simple good versus bad issue. Framing health as a security matter is an incredibly powerful tool. It can mobilize resources like nothing else, and it can save lives. But it also changes who's in charge, what problems get attention, and ultimately, whose lives are prioritized. Which leaves us with this final crucial question. In a world where a virus is a security threat, and our bodies are the new battlefield, who decides what to do next? Who gets to write the playbook for the next pandemic? Because that's the question that is going to define not just global health, but global security for decades to come.